Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett with no Kent Myers this week, but Kent will be back in a couple of weeks. He has the day off. On today's show, we're going to talk about, we've entitled the show The Glass Ceiling, and we're going to talk to a couple of very successful women attorneys and talk to them about their roads to their current positions and talk about opportunities for women lawyers in Oklahoma City and around the country. It's all coming up today on The Verdict. Thanks for joining us.
I've always been a public servant. I've served either tribes, I've served the federal government, or I've served state governments. The law allows me to express my natural desire to advocate. My name is Stephanie Cochran. I am an attorney and I am Chickasaw. Lawyers give their clients, and in my case, tribal governments, a voice. And it's through legal decisions that tribes have been able to accomplish and to regain some much lost footing that they encountered in the late 1800s and the 1900s. When I reflect back on this time in history, I think I'll look at it in terms of opportunity. And I think now we have to turn those opportunities into long-term success for our future generations.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofenation.com.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett, sans Kent Myers this week. The title of this show is The Glass Ceiling, and we are joined by a couple of very accomplished attorneys here in town. First, I'll introduce you to Paige S. Paige grew up in Clinton, graduated from Clinton High School, got her undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering at Oklahoma State University, and then attended law school and graduated at the University of Oklahoma. She worked at Crow Dunlevy and is now the Senior Vice President General Counsel for Sonic. Sonic Drive-Ins. Is that the full name of the company?
Well, the technical name is Sonic Corp.
Sonic
but
Corp.
we, for the public, we say Sonic America's Drive-In.
And worldwide headquarters are located in Bricktown and downtown
Absolutely.
Oklahoma City.
Yes.
All right, and our other guest is Amy Guzzy. Amy grew up in Tulsa, attended Nathan Hale University, got her undergraduate degree in business at TCU, also is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma's Law School, and she worked for Feller Snyder and Crow Dunlevy, but has spent the last 10 years working for Love's, and her current title is General Counsel and Director of Legal Services. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Amy, let's start with you. You didn't, when you were a little girl, I think, I want to be a lawyer at Love's someday. How did it wind up? It's got to be just a crazy journey to get you to where you are today.
It was. I started my career in retail after college, and then just one day decided I wanted to do something different. I wanted to try something more. Went back to law school. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Was fortunate to get excellent clerk positions at law firms that taught me how to be an attorney. And then after about 7 years of practice, jumped ship and went in-house with Love's.
And it's a privately owned company?
It's a privately owned company by the Love family here in Oklahoma City.
When I think of Love's, I'm thinking of growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's got to drive the legal department crazy over there.
We have grown quite a bit since it was just me almost 11 years ago. It's been fantastic. Yeah, and
you may not have numbers, I don't want to surprise you with anything, but about how many stores or travel stops open
I
in a year?
believe we just opened our 356, and we've gone anywhere from, since I've been there, opening 10 stores to 20 to more. Yeah. So it's been quite a path of growth. The family's very entrepreneurial and focused on growth, and it's been fantastic.
And not every state in the country, but a lot of them.
Almost every state.
Yeah, really? All right. And is it still the United States only, or do you have it in Canada?
It is
or
the United
Mexico?
States only.
All right. And Paige, let's get some similar questions from you. You didn't grow up hoping someday to work at Sonic, I'm assuming, or maybe you wanted to be a car hop at one time in your life.
Yeah, that's funny. I did have my local Sonic that we went to, particularly in high school, you would drag and, go through the Sonic. But I grew up wanting to be an attorney, but it didn't occur to me that it would be, a business like Sonic. I did engineering in college and worked for a couple of years as an engineer and realized that was not my calling. And so then the idea of law kind of came back. And so I worked in D.C., moved back to Oklahoma, and went to law school, and then also had the opportunity to get some nice clerkships with local law firms, and ended up working at Crow and Dunlevy after law school. And like Amy, when I got into law school, I loved it. I felt like it was the knowledge I was gaining was so practical, and I felt like I was in the right spot.
And after working at 2 large firms in downtown Oklahoma City, you went to work at Sonic. How did that transition occur?
I had always thought that I was going to have the career path at the private firm, which is just what I had in my head. But someone came to me and mentioned an opportunity at Sonic, and it took me about a minute to think about it. I'd admired Sonic as a good corporate citizen, and thinking about kind of the work and making a progression from being in a private law firm counsel to going in-house. I thought that would be very exciting, and it's turned out to be as well. It's very challenging and diverse.
Where do most of Sonic's legal needs arise?
It is as I said, a very diverse area as a business. So we have a department with various attorneys that cover different areas, but we do things like marketing review, making sure that we have the legal language correct and we're not misrepresenting something. Contracts for all the if we're going to contract for products across the system for how, what corn dogs are going to be sold into the system, we can do those contracts. We're a public company, so we deal with that. We build new stores, so we have the real estate aspects.
Dealing with a lot of municipalities along the way, and perhaps zoning regulations and things like that.
Licensing with our franchisees, we're about 90% franchised, and so licensing with them and license enforcement. Employment, all of the employment matters you can imagine from just a corporate perspective, and then we have 10% company drive-ins, which a little under 400 drive-ins are company owned, and so employment matters that arise out of there, as well as customer issues at our company-owned stores. So it's a lot. There are lots of different issues that come up, and sometimes you think, I had no idea I'd be working on, whatever the example is, but it's very interesting. The day is never the same, and at some points you're just kind of laughing about the things that you're working on, and that this is your work. But it's fun.
Yeah, how many ketchup packets? Get
Right,
distributed?
and there's a ketchup crisis because something. But it's fun.
Yeah. Amy, when you got into the legal profession, I guess we all came in, with these stereotypes. It seemed like a male-dominated profession, and at some point that has quickly changed, and now it's roughly a 50-50 split, I think, in most law schools. When you got into the legal profession, were you thinking this was a place that the barriers and sexism were starting to disappear, and women would have an equal opportunity?
I really did. I went in just knowing I was going to do the best that I could do and be the best that I could be, and I think there were the opportunities there. When Paige and I were in law school together, it seemed like it was a pretty even split on male-female. In fact, the top women in our class, Paige being one of them, they were women, not men. They did really, really well. Just having the opportunity, I think, and having examples before us. We weren't the first by any means. They were trailblazers. So we saw success ahead and knew that it was possible, and just dove in.
Are there significant advantages or disadvantages to being a woman in the legal profession?
That's a tough one. Yeah. Disadvantages or advantages? I just don't really think about male or female as I go through things. I really just do the best that I can do, and I certainly seen women before me who have accomplished things that I would love to accomplish, and see them as mentors, and that's a goal of mine. But I think probably in some of maybe different generations there may be more of a stereotypical. Women can't get to the top, but I think that Paige and I are lucky in our generation that people have been before us and they've shown that it's possible. And so I think that that's getting better for each generation after us too.
And Paige, as you entered the legal profession, it was still a male-dominated profession that you were in, even though the law school graduates may have been somewhat equal. most of the people in the legal profession at that point were male.
That's true. But as Amy said, we had good role models. I mean, of course, they were male and female role models, but there were women who were partners in law firms where we worked that had families and were, successful attorneys. And so it didn't even occur to me, really growing up or, college or law school, that there was some issue with being a woman and being able to succeed. As I felt the same way, that if I, worked hard and did a great job, that I could succeed. And I saw women doing it, so it didn't occur to me.
If there are girls watching this show and are just kind of being exposed to the legal profession for perhaps the first time, what are the skills, what are the academic skills that you think apply to a legal profession?
I think really having the ability to, an analytical ability. So you have lots of, and this is, you just learn it more and more day to day, you have a factual scenario that comes to you, and really being able to pick out the facts and quickly understand the situation and pick out the facts that are key to what kind of gives you your answer of mitigating risk or reducing risk or avoiding liability, that sort of thing. That to me is the key thing, and being able to just digest that very quickly. And having the confidence that, you've had training, you have had substantive law training and experience. Obviously, over the years, you gain more and more. But having the confidence that, I'm a bright person, I can figure this answer out, and I can, advise with confidence, because you end up being an advisor and a counselor. And so you have to have confidence in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Amy, is there a necessity to have, some level of business acumen as well as a legal background? How do you merge the needing to understand this is a business and yet I'm dealing with the legal side of that?
Yeah, and I think that's a good question. It's really pronounced, I think, in-house too, that need to have that business acumen. When you're in a law firm, at least when you're a young attorney, you typically don't get the whole project from beginning to end and get to see how it all works. You're handed pieces of it to assist. You're an associate attorney supporting the more experienced attorneys, but when you get into the corporate world, you have to understand the business. You have to understand how your clients operate. And in my department, each of my new attorneys, when they came on, had a goal of get to know the departments assigned to you, get to know the people, go sit with them, participate in meetings, find out what makes them tick, and really try to be proactive, get in on those early meetings and understand what it is their goals are, and then align your goals with theirs to support them. And you really become a strategic advisor more than just someone looking at a pleading or looking at a contract. It's really exciting.
Let's take a break. We are visiting with Amy Guzzy and Paige S. They are both attorneys for large businesses here in the Oklahoma City area, and we'll have more with the two of them after this.
I didn't know that there were abandoned oil well sites on the property, but it turns out there were 3 of them. We saw those commercials, but never did we ever dream that it was going to happen out here. OARB came out and they cleaned up these old sites for us. And when you look at what they've done, it's absolutely fantastic. This whole plan out here is for the grandkids and just generations to come. The process is simple. Pick up the telephone. It's worth a phone call. Trust me, it's worth it.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the Set of the Verdict. The title of this show is The Glass Ceiling, and our guests are a couple of women attorneys here in Oklahoma City. Paige Bass is a Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Sonic, and Amy Guzzy is a General Counsel and Director of Legal Services at Love's. Let me talk to you all about hiring, because we've talked about this show being about glass ceilings, and now each of you are involved in the hiring process of your legal staffs at your prospective companies. So Paige, we'll start with you. You have to obviously remember when you were, the young attorney hoping to be hired, and now you're on the other end of it. So what are you looking for when you go through that process?
I'm looking for, and we as a department, legal department, and as a company, looking for someone who is very smart and is self-motivated and understands, someone who has had experience in the legal field. So you have that basic understanding of the law and different areas of the law under your belt, so you come in and you're capable to hit the ground running, to be able to give advice and counsel, like I mentioned before. And so we want to hire someone who has had a good legal foundation, a good substantive law foundation, and then someone who is self-motivated. We have a department, 7 attorneys including myself, and they're all smart, hardworking, self-motivated people. So that makes it easier for the department, for it to function appropriately. But then you really develop a relationship with your internal customers in the building, who they all have different areas. So you're working with deep people in the building, and if they can have trust and have relationships with the attorneys, you're a partner with them, with getting the business done. And that's really important, because as a law department, we're a legal support for the company and for getting business done. And so we need to have, we want to have smart attorneys who are responsive and can do the job. We want to be a help, not a hindrance.
Amy, how's the hiring process go at your place?
I would say everything that Paige said is all true. We hire smart. If you hire someone who's smart and someone who has a basic experience, they can really do anything. We're very diverse in the amount of the types of work that we do. So someone who can kind of turn on a dime and do this today and that tomorrow comes in very handy. It really, again, it's like the self-motivated and people who want to do well, team players. Our department is relatively small, like Paige's. We're about to hire our 9th attorney, including me. And the fit, really someone who culturally fits with our company and the department, and feels at home, and you can kind of sense that in an interview. Either they're really uncomfortable, or you can just say, this person, I could see them in one of our attorney meetings and they would fit right in. That's the person that's going to be the most successful at Love's. So our hiring process is usually pretty slow. We may take 2 to 3 months to hire an attorney, but the turnover is really low at Love's.
And I hear so much about social media being part of the hiring prospect. Is that something you all keep in mind, or remind your employees about? What you put on the internet, what you put in your social media account is available, and it reflects on everybody else.
We certainly do send that message at Love's. I tell people when I'm speaking sometimes to new managers, and I'll say, every email you send out, pretend at the bottom it says signed by Tom Love. would you say what you're going to say if Tom was signing that letter? So it's taken very seriously at Love's.
And social media is part of your job too?
Same, yes. We have policies across the company, and it's the same thing. You sort of scare people sometimes, because you say, think about this email being an exhibit in trial. So you really want to make sure anything you put in writing is something that you are comfortable with being made public, and so we do talk about that.
Amy, people associate Love's with the travel stops that they see in Oklahoma and around the country, but they're now expanding and getting into new fields. And I would assume that forces the legal department to bring in a whole new knowledge base on a whole different set of issues that you hadn't had to deal with before.
Absolutely. So we've branched out into hotels and self-storage facilities recently, and so that was a completely new area to a lot of us. We did some self-education. We initially hired some experts to educate us, so that we knew what we were doing and what needed to be done, and hired someone in-house to handle the hotels and that growth. And it's just really important to get to know these new business ventures so that you can do the best that you can do. And I think in the beginning, hiring experts on the subject to teach my staff and teach me what we need to know is really the best route, and it's working well.
Yeah, Paige, Sonic deals with so many customers every day. I would think there has to be a time or two when you guys go into some sort of crisis management position.
Right.
Yeah. To talk. How does that work?
Right. We actually have a cross-functional group that handles crisis management. So we have someone, often in my concern of food products, so we have someone from our quality assurance, someone from our communications department, legal. So it's a team, and they. we have varying levels of crisis. Often it's related to maybe one drive-in. Ideally, it's a small crisis, not a large crisis. But they're pretty experienced on handling the issues, and if it's a legal issue, really getting legal's involved on the important issues. And the thing about working in-house is that you are often working cross-functionally, so you provide legal support as needed. So that is definitely something that we work. And we have 2 attorneys, one attorney in the department that they are our main crisis management attorney, and then we sort of have a backup as well. So that's one of the buckets of things that we get to deal with, and sometimes they're very interesting, and it's a hurry kind of emergency sort of thing, deadlines if you have press calling and wanting a response, and so that makes it kind of exciting and very interesting.
And Sonic is a public company. I'm
Yes.
sure that sets up a whole another branch of parameters and oversight and probably another room full of accountants.
Right, absolutely. So that obviously creates all the accounting issues related to public company, but then many legal aspects as well related to the public filings and disclosures, and we have a board, of course, who has requirements related to how they function under the laws related to public companies. So we spend a lot of time dealing with those requirements.
And as I recall, Sonic is a franchisor, obviously. People have franchises. But Sonic also owns some stores.
Yes.
Isn't that right? That's still
Yes,
correct,
that's
right?
correct. So
what's
it's
the trend?
So we're about 10%, 11% company owned, and that's probably, we feel good about that. So the rest, 90-some% are franchised. And it kind of ebbs and flows just across the industry of our type of business. Quick service franchise type concepts seems to be flowing a little more toward franchised. But we don't provide legal counsel for our franchisees. They're independent operators. They're employers of their employees, and that's a big issue in our industry. So we don't make employment decisions for those, and they run their stores and make their decisions. But we do have standards that they have to agree to, and so part of what as a franchisor, we have field people out making sure they're complying with standards, and if there are issues with that, then legal department would get involved to make sure that we want them in compliance. We want the drive-ins clean and the procedures followed, food safety procedures followed, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And Amy, Loves is a private company, so it's not public, and you don't have franchises, so no one is purchasing a franchise.
All privately owned by the Love family.
And ironically, you're a franchisee because you're, as I understand it, maybe the second largest holder of Subway restaurants,
True.
for instance, in the country.
We are a franchisee. We have usually 2 food concepts at each of our travel stops, so that's a big area for us too.
Yeah. And do you expect the size of the legal staff to continue to grow as the company grows?
I do. I'm hiring another attorney right now and have slotted to hire another one next year. It's just growth brings on more attorneys.
And Paige, will there be more lawyers in the room 5 years from now?
Ultimately, there will. We try to be very efficient because we're not revenue generating. But our recent hire, the most recent new attorney we had was we had kind of this burgeoning, as you mentioned, social media area, digital marketing, and so from our marketing department, we're doing a lot more in that regard. So we hired an attorney to really get up to speed for that area because we're texting and we're doing Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and those sorts of things. And so there are legal requirements related to that. So that's something, as things change and develop, which they will, we'll have to expand as well.
And Paige, besides your work at Sonic, you mentioned to me that you're involved with the Urban League, Leadership Oklahoma City, and the County Bar. You're obviously trying to give back to the community.
I do. I grew up with parents and grandparents who were always involved in the community. So it's something that just was sort of ingrained in me, and they're important. I've been involved with Oklahoma Lawyers for Children over the years as well, and there are lots of needs in our community, and so I appreciate having the opportunity to be involved in those and contribute some small part.
And Amy, you've helped with the Homeless Alliance in Oklahoma City.
I am on the board for the Homeless Alliance, and I'm the chair of the Day Shelter Subcommittee. The Day Shelter is the only one in Oklahoma City. Our mission is to end homelessness in Oklahoma City, and they've just made wonderful strides.
Amy Guzzy is a general counsel and director of legal services at Love's Travel Shops. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And Paige Bass is the Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Sonic Drive-Ins. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll have a final word when we get back.
There are now 11 million of us who live here and work here. I was 15 when I came here 6 years ago. I raised my family here. I drive my truck to my job every day. The only difference between now and 6 years ago, I do it legally. I wanted to. Because this is my home.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett wrapping up a show that we entitled The Glass Ceiling. And we had a couple of very impressive attorneys on our show, Paige Bass, who works at Sonic, and Amy Guzzy, who works at Love's. And, you know, we all, grew up with these male stereotypes, but I tell you, the legal profession has certainly come a long way in gender equity, and it's now one of the leading industries in that area, and I think these two women are wonderful examples. We have some website information, how you can get more information about these two companies that we highlighted today. The first is sonicdrivein.com. That's sonicdrivein.com, where Paige Bass is the Senior Vice President and General Counsel. And also loves.com, that's loves.com, where Amy Guzzy is the General Counsel and the Director of Legal Services. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. Love to see you check it out. We'll see you next week.